Welcome back to Fight News Now. It is John Pollock here. Robin Black is on assignment, as you will find out later on the shift. So here I am with John Ramdeen, and we are going to be taking a look at next weekend, which is a just crazy amount of mixed martial arts in one particular evening. UFC 180, World Series of Fighting, featuring 3 title fights, and Bellator is back on Spike TV, headlined by Tito Ortiz and Stephan Bonnar, the fight no one wanted to see. And as we get closer, in terms of a grudge bout, this might be the most watched fight of the entire night.
Yeah, what's the best about this is we give the UFC tons of love, you know. The fact is that it's the #1 organization in the world, so we have to acknowledge that. But very few people look at Bellator as any type of threat for the UFC, and Coker really doesn't care about that. He just wants to prove that he's the #2 organization in the world. He's there to deliver for the fans. And I remember when this fight was first announced between Tito Ortiz and Stephan Bonnar, people were like, you know, I don't really want to see it. Tito Ortiz, this washed up, blah, 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 blah. But the fact is that we keep getting closer to the fight, and I've heard people that made those comments about Tito Ortiz now say that they're excited, they can't wait to watch Stephan Bonnar and Tito Ortiz, because you think of it, this style, and I think they complement each other, and I think they're really going to deliver the action-packed fights that we're used to from seeing from both guys. But on top of that, you have the lightweight fight between Michael Chandler and Will Brooks, an awesome rematch between 2 ridiculous athletes, and you have King Mo on the card, and the fight I think that's going to steal the show. It could be possibly fight of the year. Former tournament winner in glory, Joe Schilling, taking on the destructive machine and Melvin Manhoff, who has almost 30 knockouts on his resume in mixed martial arts.
And you look at this card, and you outlined it perfectly there. This really seems to satisfy whatever you really enjoy about mixed martial arts. If it's that grudge bout featuring 2 names that lots of people are familiar with, you get that in the main event. If you want to see 2 incredible lightweights and what should be an extremely athletic contest, you're going to get it with Chandler and Brooks. If you want to see 2 dudes that are not even going to go near the ground, you will get it with Melvin Manhoff and Joe Schilling. It seems that Scott Coker is trying to cater to as many people as possible. And you start at the main event, John, and we've seen time after time that just because 2 guys might not be in their physical prime, if they have established names, people still want to watch them. And it's the reason why people still wanted to support Chuck Liddell later into his career. Why we saw earlier this year how well Quinton Jackson and King Mo did on pay-per-view with that grudge bout. I mean, people respond to names and they respond to grudges. However manufactured they may be, people want to believe that 2 guys get into the cage and they really dislike one another.
That's absolutely true, but the one thing, there's one truth that we can't forget, and it's kind of the most important truth, is that, you know, when the people leave the venue or they stop watching on TV, do they walk away from the Bellator product saying, holy smokes, I can't wait for the next show. We got to see ridiculous knockouts, submissions, or did we get to see, you know what, these guys are past their prime. Tito Ortiz didn't even try to fight. It was a slow, boring, you know, opposed to, you know, when Tito was coming into the Bellator organization, he was paired with Alexander Shlemenko. What type of Tito Ortiz are we going to see? This guy's broken. If he loses, he's going to complain about this and that. And what happened? He ended up submitting Alexander Shlemenko, kind of re-injecting himself into the consciousness of the mixed martial arts masses. So I think all these guys have to do, and I'm sure Coker's had the conversation, go out, boys, entertain. Nobody cares about your record. Put on a show. We'll have you back.
And I have to actually applaud them for the way they are promoting this. And with all due respect to Michael Chandler and Will Brooks, they are promoting Tito and Bonnar as the main event. I think for that very reason is let's bring people in and then they're going to watch Chandler and Brooks, because they don't have a whole lot of name recognition outside of the Bellator audience. And I think that bringing people in and using Tito and Bonnar, they are simply luring fans in to hopefully see a great show and you become a Bellator fan out of it. And with Chandler and Brooks, I think you're going to get a dynamite fight between these 2 once again.
Agreed, but one thing you also have to look at is the fact that Scott Coker, Dana White, so on and so forth, Reed Harris, these guys are all fight promoters. They're to promote their guys, and they're trying to fill seats, they're trying to get eyeballs to watch their product, and they're trying to make money. And this is the way that they have to do it. Tito Ortiz is the biggest name on the card. Stephan Bonnar, the 2nd biggest name on the card. It's just like King Mo. King Mo had an opponent. His opponent fell out. They could have found many fighters at 205 pounds to match up against King Mo. Instead, Joe Vedepo steps in, 185 pounds, moving up to 205 pounds. Do they want Joe
on a month's notice, too?
Yeah. Do they want Joe Vedepo to win this fight? Of course not. They're there to promote King Mo. The guy wears a crown. He creates interest. Unfortunately, you know, we haven't seen the best King Mo over the last number of years, but I'm sure the Bellator organization is hoping to get something back from that.
Yeah, I think King Mo, this is really a fight where he can shine, and many people thought he beat Quinton Jackson in that fight back in May, and here we have Joe Vedepo fighting up in weight and 2 fights in the span of a month for him. So a lot of insurmountable odds for one Joe Vedepo. And also on this card, to open things up, they've placed Mike Richmond, who's coming off that great knockout over Ed West, taking on Nam Phan. And I think that this is kind of a bantamweight fight that could be a lot of fun. I think Mike Richmond is someone that he has that explosive knockout power. And I think with Nam Phan, he is someone that has had a lot of exciting fights in the past. And I think going to Bellator, maybe it'll have a bit of, it can reinvigorate him a bit after that, you know, average UFC run.
Well, one thing we know is we've talked to many fighters that, you know, making the move over to the Bellator, and now that Coker is the head of the promotion, it's like, okay, well, it's a different Bellator. This isn't the same thing, and a lot of these guys have had relationships with Scott Coker in the past, including Nam Phan, so you can understand why he would want to come to the Bellator organization. He has a second chance at a mixed martial arts career. Just go out, entertain, do your job, kick off the show in style, and then let the main event do the thing.
And what are your thoughts on just the head-to-head nature of this? I mean, taking World Series of Fighting out of the equation, Bellator presenting this free card, they've got the resources of Viacom behind them, against a pay-per-view that I don't know if it's categorized as must-see for a UFC fan, and might want to go the free option that night.
Yeah, I just don't know how many people know about the Bellator organization. So if you're flipping through, yes, you might stick here, but the UFC is still the powerhouse.
All right, lots to chat about next week leading up to this massive head-to-head battle, if you want to categorize World Series of Fighting in this fight. For John Randy and I'm John Pollock, we're coming back with more, including this week's viral video.